I am Sean Steinman. I am with Day-Night My Coffee Company and Cafe Consulting. I'm here at the Kahu Coffee Festival brewing coffee at the Kahu Experience, where we have one coffee brewed on 5 different brew methods. And there's different people, and every half hour we're rotating the coffee that we're using, and there's a crew of people each brewing it on a different method. I am brewing on a Chemex. Chemex is a fairly old method of brewing coffee. Well, not too old. Probably developed in the 1940s. And it's very simple. It's a tracked glass canister, a paper filter, most of the time white or brown, although you can purchase a metal filter for it. And it's very simple. You just add the filter, add the coffee, and pour water on top. Just like a Mr. Coffee, except I'm the Mr. So it makes a really nice cup of coffee, but then a lot of different brew methods make a nice cup of coffee. The coffee, there are many ways of brewing coffee, and this is we call this a pour over or a gravity fed method, where gravity's doing most of the work. And there's a lot of different ways of doing the same thing, and they don't necessarily have a lot of difference between each other. I can manipulate the kind of paper filter I'm using or metal filter. I can manipulate the water temperature a little bit. But leaps and bounds, it's very similar to other pour-over methods. It's, in my opinion, it's a very attractive way of brewing coffee. And I can brew a lot at once. A lot of the other pour-over methods are really designed for one cup at a time, but this gets me 3 or 4. So I wouldn't say it's any better, but I wouldn't say it's any worse. It's an alternative based on any number of factors. I mean, it does make spectacular coffee. At my cafe, one of the things we use to brew coffee is a Chemex, because I'm that fond of it.
So the only thing that's different is power input. So it gives you My name is Kirsten Graves. I work at Daylight Mine Coffee Company, and today at the Coffee Festival I'm brewing the Clever Dripper. In the Clever Dripper we put a paper filter and then fill it with coffee and add the water, and we let it set for 3 minutes, and then at the 3-minute mark we put it on top of a decanter, and what that does is it activates a trigger that lifts a plug in the bottom of the dripper, and it drains the coffee through the filter. So because the coffee and the water stay in the dripper the entire time, it is similar to a French press, and that is a full immersion coffee. However, unlike French press, it also runs the coffee through a filter, thus yielding a clean, light body that you would never get with a French press. Because of this, the main difference between these brewers is the type of body it yields, and it yields different flavor profiles from different ways of leaving the coffee and water in contact with each other, and the different ways that the coffee and the water come in contact with each other ends up yielding different flavor profiles that vary slightly from one to the other.
So first we're going to grind 25 grams of coffee.
Wow, fresh ground coffee.
This is going to be iced coffee, so a little over 1/3 of the volume of the water we're going to use is going to be in ice form. So we're going to use 150 grams of ice in the bottom of the decanter.
What is this method called?
This is just ice pour-over coffee. So there's many ways to do pour-over coffee. We're using, in particular, Hario B60 is the name of this particular pour-over brewer.
Hario B60.
Hot water over the brine and let it drip on top of the ice. We're going to start out pouring just a small amount of water to let the coffee bloom, where some of the gases kind of expand the coffee. We'll only pour about 40-50 grams to start with, and then we're just going to let it drip through the grounds for about 30 seconds.
And the second pour is just to...
Second pour is to continue the infusion. We're just going to pour in the center in a slightly circular motion, at a slow, constant rate for about the next 2 minutes. And when it finishes, it'll be most of the ice melted and maybe just a couple cubes left, and it should be nice and cool.
Now, how is this going to taste different from the other ways?
Well, things that are cold, it kind of mutes some qualities and highlights others. So the coffee will hopefully be, especially this one being a lighter roast, fairly refreshing compared to a hot coffee, maybe a little bit sweeter in taste.
And voila.
My name is James. This is Patrick. We work at a coffee shop in Honolulu called The Curb. And what we're doing right now is brewing what's called a V60. This is a pour-over coffee. What we've done is we've taken 25 grams of whole bean coffee, which you can see here. We've ground it on a medium coarseness, somewhere between French press and espresso, right there in the middle. And we're gonna then add 400 grams of hot water. So that's a brewing ratio there, 25 to 400, which boils down to 16 grams of water for every gram of coffee that you use, which is very close to the Specialty Coffee Association of America's like standards. They say like this is the strength at which you should brew coffee. You know, obviously the strength at which you like your coffee is very subjective, but that's what SCA recommends, and so just to show off the coffees, that's what we've done today. And what Patrick is doing is he's just pouring hot water over the coffee, and then gravity is pulling the coffee down through the grounds, thus extracting all the things that we like in the coffee. This particular brewing device called the Hario V60 uses a relatively thin paper filter. So this paper filter takes out a lot of the oils and the dissolved solids in the coffee, but it lets through more of the oils than, per se, the Chemex there at the end. So with more oils comes like a thicker mouthfeel, right? Like oil is thicker than water. So this will be slightly more viscous than the one at the end, but you know, nothing too crazy. And yeah, something that I really like about the V60 versus the Chemex is that you can remove the brewing device from the decanter, so you can brew it, remove the brewer, and then serve just the decanter. That's something I really like about it. I also think it looks nice. Always a plus.
I noticed that he poured over way faster than the iced one. Is that, or it's just the way someone?
It could look different. I think we were shooting for a shorter brewing time than Miguel was. We were shooting for about 2 minutes and 45 seconds. You were going to 3 minutes? Yeah, okay. So we were just shooting for a slightly shorter brew time. Just thought that it was making the coffee taste really nice hot today at about that brew time. But brew time is something that we're always adjusting the taste. Trying to find what works best for the coffee.
That's a wow.